Okay, so good afternoon. Klaro ninyo ning at klaro ninyo?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Sige, thank you. Sabayang pag yes sir, no. Okay, so this afternoon we will be tackling the topic of memory formation. Okay? So, let's go first with the definition of memory. Memory is the retention of information or experience over time, no. That means uh that means that we experience a certain event and then it is retained in our brain. Okay, so memory occurs through three important processes: encoding, storage, and retrieval. Tulo ni sila ka processes wherein importante siya sa tanan in terms of memory formation. For memory to work, we have to take in information, which is encoding, store it or represent it in some manner, which is storage, no? And then retrieve it for a later purpose, which is retrieval. So tulo ka processes in which kanin tulo ka processes importante siya sa pag-store og memory or sa pag-build sa memory, pag-retain sa memory. Okay? Ngano man. First part is encoding. Encoding, mura ka ga-encode sa computer. Okay? So if na-fail ang encoding palang daan nga stage, failure na daan ang memory. Gets? If na-fail ang storage, ang pag-store sa memory na fail, wala na pod. No? And if dili niyo ma-retrieve ang information nga imong gi-store, wala ra gyapon, right? So, those three processes are important in memory formation. Okay, so you get information, you store information, mura ra gid na siya computer class, and then you retrieve information. Now, what happens is, of course, usahay ga-encode ka, save yung gi-encode. Usahay taka kag store, wherein there are times nga wala ka baluahan ni mag-save, no? And it's also like a brain, no? And then we have the retrieval. Di niyo ma-retrieve, mawala nimo, na delete ba nimo or na corrupt and so on and so forth, right? So that's the thing with memory. Now, the first process would be encoding, the process by which information gets into memory storage. In everyday experiences, encoding has much in common with learning. Some information gets into memory virtually automatically, whereas encoding other information takes effort. Muning, sometimes maka-ask ang isa ka student nganong basta binuang nga memes ma-remember nato. Nganong katong mga salida K-drama madumduman nato ang pangalan sa actors, bahalag Koreano ilang pangalan, madumduman nato ang plot sa story, but if mas nagali ang storyahan, no, lisod kayo dumdumon ang Pythagorean theorem. Lisod kayo dumdumon ang a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared, no? Lisod kayo memorize ang mga terms sa ato ang subjects, sa uban nato subjects, no? And the reason for that, of course, no, naay uban information dali ra i-digest. Especially if that information is partly entertaining sa imuha, or especially if that information is kanang para sa imo is kanang valuable, no, or you have vested in that certain topic, you're invested in that certain topic, such as Blackpink or sa panahon yung mga kuan, and yung mga favorite nga mga Korean nga mga bands, girl bands. So what happens is that kay interested man ka, the information is easily encoded into the storage part. Whereas if dili ka interested sa uban butang, such as for example, dili ka interested sa psychology, you would be asking, nganong kinahanglan ko mag-take og psych nga social work man ko, right? Why do I have to learn all of these things? What happens is that lisod siya i-store sa memory, and it takes much effort and concentration and energy on your part para ma-encode lang sa imuhang storage, sa imuhang brain. Okay, so it takes less effort for other information, while for other information takes more effort. Okay, so next aspect sa encoding, we have the attention. Is the first aspect of encoding. Sakto ba? First aspect? Yes. It's the attention. To begin the process of memory encoding, we have to attend to information. You have to have your attention towards the information that is placed in front of you. Attention plays an important role in perception. Attention is selective because the brain's resources are limited. Although our brains are remarkably efficient, they cannot attend to everything. If madumduman ninyo ang gorilla experiment, right? Wala, some of you, daghan sa inyo, wala nakabantay sa gorilla. And if nakabantay mo sa gorilla, wala po mo nakabantay, ikapila gipas ang ball og pila ka buok tawo og naay ni hawa sa gapasa-pasa og ball, right? So the thing is, the brain cannot attend to everything all at once, and so attention plays a vital role in memory formation and even learning. That's why kung naay klase mo nang ginatsulti nila nga, you have to have your attention sa klase, right? So kana lang, no? Limitations mean that we have to attend selectively to some things in our environment and ignore others. Kana lang po. No? We have to ignore other factors, other things sa environment if we need to be attentive. That doesn't mean nga kung alingasa ang classroom, that doesn't mean kung alingasa ang balay, wala na din may gana. No, you have to have what? That determination to be attentive to some things. And then we have the divided attention yung concept. It also affects memory encoding, right? It occurs when a person attends to several things simultaneously. You think nga nakay natunan, but the truth is walay nisulod sa imong mind while you're reading or while you're doing your assignment. Kano man, because nag-assignment ka, tubangan sa TV. Okay? Or study ka, sa pikas hand, libro sa pikas hand, nakika-text, right? And so, divided attention. Next would be the level of processing. No, how do you process information? First level dra would be shallow. Tan-awon nimo ang physical features such as ipa-report ka, ignon nimo imong teacher nga, "Ma'am, nganong baga kayo ang pages ako i-report? Ilaha is mubo ra." Or, "Ma'am, among i-report lagi nga topic kay puno og diagram." While sa akong classmate kay puno og words. No, that's shallow level of processing. Wala pa nimo nakit-an, wala pa nimo nabasa, gitan-aw nimo ang physical features. That's shallow level. Intermediate level, stimulus is recognized and given a label. This is the point wherein a person is actually studying and what? Muna nga point nga gina-highlight nimo ang importante nga parts. So, giving label. No? And then the deepest level information is processed semantically in terms of its meaning. Its deepest level, we make associations. The more association we make, the deeper the processing. Sige, hatag ko ninyo example. Example sa theory ni Sigmund Freud, the psychodynamic nga perspective, right? The psychoanalytic nga perspective. Sige. So, psychoanalytic perspective, if madungga nimo sa shallow level mo, lisudaan ni, uy, makalibog man ni, wala ko kaila, kinsa ni si Freud, lisod subtone, lisod basahon ng words, lisod subtone ang meaning. So, that's shallow level processing. When we say intermediate level, you label some concepts that you think are important and then you make notes of those things and then you search those things. For example, tanaw nimong meaning. So that's intermediate level. Sa deepest level, you actually know the meaning of a word or a concept or an information, and then you are able to make associations with this information. Meaning, kabalo na ka sa application. And that's the deepest level of of processing information. Knowing the meaning and then knowing the application. You associate things with the things that you have read. No? And then we have elaboration. No? So it is what? The widening of the information nga ginahatag sa imo. Inato nimo to some concepts. Inato nimo towards its deepest nga butanta application, no? So that's elaboration. And you will only do elaboration by what? By teaching it. So mo po ni siyang part wherein ginapa-report ang students because through elaborating things mas mupilit ang information sa imuha. And then imagery, no? You create imagery instead of words. You create image out of your mind so that ma-retain ang information. For example, sige, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog. If you will memorize that phrase, the quick brown fox jumped over the lazy dog, you have 9 words, right? To think about, and i-plaster nimo in a sequence, and if na-plaster nimo ang sequence, basahon nimo ang word together with the word next to it, and then it forms a phrase, right? But with imagery, what do you do is that imagino na lang nimo nga naay brown nga fox, quick brown fox nga gaambak over sa isa ka ero nga lazy. Portanta natulog nga ero. Okay? So naay fox nga gaambak over sa natulog nga ero. That concept is actually good if you were to familiarize things, right? Imagery. So it could be encoded sa imong memory easily, no? And then we have the memory storage. Isa sa tong pinaka accepted nga theories on memory storage would be kang Atkinson nga theory, no? Atkinson actually na siya tulo ka types of memory storage. First is sensory, short term, and then long term. Sensory memory time frames of a fraction of a second to several seconds. Short term memory time frames up to 30 seconds, and long term memory time frames up to a lifetime. So sensory memory holds information from the world in its original sense for only an instant, not much longer than the brief time it is exposed to the visual, auditory, and other senses. Sensory memory is very rich and detailed, but information in it quickly lost unless we use certain strategies that transfer it to short-term or long-term nga memory, no? Such as taste or flavors, no? For example, the thing is, kabalo mo sa lasa sa saging, for example, or sa mangga. You know the flavor, but dili pa ninyo makonjure. You just know it, but dili ninyo makonjure karon. Nga naman, because you're not eating such. But if you're eating na din, or if makasimhot ka, then you actually conjure the information from memory, no? Short-term memory is kajut lang a memory, wherein you use it for practical reasons, no? For operating within the environment you're in. And then we have the long-term memory. Is relatively permanent type of memory that stores huge amount of information for a long time. The capacity for long-term memory is indeed staggering, no? Long-term memory is complex. It is divided into substructures of explicit memory and implicit memory, non-declarative. Explicit memory has to do with remembering who, what, when, and why. Implicit memory has to do with remembering how. So, implicit memory is most likely about what processes, while explicit memory is most likely about what? About information, raw information, no? So, how is memory organized? First, dira is through hierarchy, no? In many instances, we remember facts better when we organize them into hierarchy. Unsa ning hierarchy? Katong triangle, right? So, if we have the hierarchy, so ang pinaka-complex sa taas, ang pinaka-basic sa ubos. That's why sa atong educational system, ang pinaka-complex would be naa sa college, which is tertiary education. Ang pinaka-basic naa sa primary education sa lower level, which is ang A, B, C, D, alphabet, numbers, shapes, colors. No? So, that. So gikan sa pinaka basic musaka ka sa pinaka complex mo nang answer nganong kinahanglan pa man ko mo take og psych 1 because many information sa psych 1 magamit sa psych 2. Unsay magamit sa psych 2, magamit sa psych 3, and magamit sa psych 4, and so on. And so what you have is what? A hierarchy of information. Na that when you have mastered the basic, you will ultimately master the complex. And then we have the semantic networks. We often use semantic networks to organize material in episodic memory. One of the first network theories claimed that our memories can be envisioned as a complex network of nodes that stand for labels and concepts. The network is assumed to be hierarchically arranged with more concrete concepts nested under more abstract concepts. Okay, so concrete and then we have abstract. These are semantic networks. These are what? These are arranged by nodes. Unsa ning nodes? Mura siya og network siya, network. Unsay sa semantic networks would be we would be labeling things according sa ilang meaning, sa ilang values, sa ilang need, sa ilang practicality, okay? And sa familiarity, for example. Sige, for example, when I say nakoy iro, ang pangalan sa akong iro kay si Bruno. Now, sorry for that. Sige. Nakoy pet, ang pangalan sa akong pet kay si Bruno. So, what happens is that automatically sa imong brain, ang Bruno nga name for a pet would most likely connect to the semantics that the pet is what? A dog. Nga naman, kay mas common siya sa dog, no? Nakoy pet, ang pangalan Ming Ming, no? So the thing is, no, you if you guess unsa siya nga pet, of course you would be saying it's a cat, no? So the idea sa semantics would be everything would be tagged, everything would be arranged according sa iyang practicality, sa iyang uses or commonality, no? So inana, no? Same na siya sa if nakay tao nga gusto madumduman dayon wala ka kabalo sa iyang pangalan, and so you make up a description sa iya, katong taason, katong pution, katong inani og buhok. And so imong kasturya would most likely what? Use semantics to create an image nga pinakaduol sa imuhang declare nga image. So inana. And then we have the schema. The schema is a pre-existing mental concept or framework. So the schema nga concept came from what? From who? Kang Piaget, right? So ang schema is na siya daan. It's a framework it's a mindset wherein go follow siya framework, no? And so through that framework we assimilate and we accommodate information and then we store it as memory, no? Schema theory claims that long-term memory is not very exact. We seldom find precisely the memory that we want, or at least not all of what we want. Hence, we have to reconstruct the rest. Our schemas support the reconstruction process, helping us fill in gaps between our fragmented nga memories. So, that. No? So, we use mental blueprints to what? To fill in the gaps in our memories, to fill in the details. So that's the schema right there. No, and then we have the script, no, muna siya sa script. Under sa schema, scripts have information about physical features, people, and typical occurrences. How you behave, how you should behave, no, according to a certain event or certain occurrence, no. Then we have the connectionist, no. This is the most widely accepted nga theory on storage, no. So sa connectionism, the theory that memory is stored throughout the brain in connections among neurons. So walay specific parts but among neurons naghold sila og specific details of memories that when you need something, gina comb through sa imuhang mind, ang brain, no, with each neuron which holds that certain information, no. So inana. Okay, so we have ano siya? Diagram here. No, so sa theory, unsa siya nga theory and the nature of memory units, the number of units, no, formation of new memories, na siya iyang own strengths and weaknesses. And then we have the memory retrieval, no, when we retrieve memory out of storage. We have the serial position effect. According to serial position effect, you most likely recall the things that are at the beginning and end of a list more readily than those in the middle. That's why sa mga, when magpa-picture ang mga artista, ilang most likely ginabutang sa sa tunga-tunga would be katong mga sikat because they already are famous, and so sa sa first and middle and sa last nga part ginabutang nila would be those people nga dili kayo sikat so that madumduman sila. So that's the serial position effect. When you graduate sa college, ang inyo halang madumduman would be those things nga nasa first and mga last nga parts. Malibog na mo na unsa gibuhat niyo sa second year, third year. Even karon when you recall your high school days, maglibog na mo. Aha mo, what did you do sa second year, third year nga nung murag ni ambak ra mo fourth year. No, so inana. And then we have forgetting. Hermann Ebbinghaus was the first person to conduct scientific research on forgetting. He made up and memorized a list of 13 nonsense syllables and then assessed how many of them he could remember as time passed. Even just an hour later, Ebbinghaus could only recall a few of the nonsense syllables he had memorized. Based on his research, he concluded that the most forgetting takes place soon after we learn something. If maka-learn na tag something, dira ta maka-forget sa mga things that we have learned in the first place. So forgetting is actually part of learning. So the only time that we could forget something, no, is that we learn something. No, that's why for some people they have to go out of their way, no, so that for them to be able to forget a certain episode sa ilang life, they have to move away from that specific nga lugar to learn something new out sa bagong nga lugar. Inana. That's why people move, that's why people go away, that's why ang uban tao needs needs something nga kabisihan nila or something ma-occupy ilang mind so that they would most likely forget the things that they have learned from the very beginning. And then we have the encoding failure. Encoding failure is, of course, ma-fail encode, then wala na. Di na siya makakuha sa memory. And we have retrieval failure, na encode, na store, but dili ma-retrieve. No? Na, sa term nila ani, ang data na pulihan na og lain, no, ang data. I'm really sorry, I forgot the term. Na-decay na ang data, no? Atong topic is memory, then limtanon kay si sir. No, the decay na ang data. If ang data ma-decay na, maglisod na ka og retrieve. For example, the data about best friend nimo sa elementary, boom, no? Wala na kaya kadumdum sa yang nawong, sa yang tingog because ang data ni decay na. All you know is that na kay best friend sa elementary and then wala ka kabalon siya ron, no? So inana. And then we have the tip of the tongue phenomenon wherein nana sa imuhang tip sim tongue ang isa ka concept or isa ka memory or isa ka word but you can't actually get it out. And then we have the amnesia, wherein special nga case wherein na loss sa memory. We have anterograde amnesia and retrograde, no. So ang anterograde is affects the retention of new information, and then retrograde involves memory loss from the past. So sa retrograde, dili ka makadumdum sa imong past. Sa anterograde, maglisod ka o store og new information, thus imong mahinumduman lang is ang past. And so that ends our topic this session.